Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike the Intern, Ned Reynolds in the studio. It is a Friday morning. I am hungover. I am tired, but you know what? It was all worth it. Chiefs win in overtime, 34-28 in LA, and maintain the AFC West.
You suppose the Chiefs are hungover and tired too? I doubt it very much. That's a nice win for Kansas City, and I think it's one that's very revealing in a lot of respects. Number one, all this rubbish about the offense not being what it used to be. Hey, when they have to open things up, they will, and they did last night because they had to. They were pressured by a very good Chargers football team. I'm going to preface those remarks by saying that I'm not a fan of Thursday night football at all. I wish they'd do it in. It doesn't, to me, make any sense. It's a fragmented network, number one, and I don't like the fact that they have 3 days rest. Yeah, one day a year for Thanksgiving, do understand that. That's fine. But making a lot of teams go through this, I thought the Chargers were dragging. I thought the Chiefs were dragging at the end of the game last night. And you could see on the expression on their face, you mean we have to play an extra period? Well, Los Angeles practiced something that I think is what the Chiefs are going to see, not from the regular season, but in the playoffs. And that's teams who can run the ball are going to keep it on the ground and keep that offense off the field. Kansas City's offense is there. When they need to open it up, they will. Mahomes did last night. Over 400 yards, 410, and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty doggone good compared to his 200 in games before when they were taking their foot off the pedal. I don't care what anybody tells you.
It's game management.
Was by design.
Yeah, it's game management.
Here's the deal. The Chargers ran for 192 yards last night. 192. It kept the Chiefs off the field, and it brought the Chargers back from a 10-0 deficit to take a lead. All right, Kansas City comes back. They're quick strike, everybody knows that, and had to come from behind on several occasions to get the lead and win it in overtime. Very nice piece of play. Of course, winning the toss helps when you have a Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, my God, thank you, Melvin Ingram.
Well, he made the lucky call.
Hey, Pete, hey, Tells, let's go. It is what it is.
Had it been the Chargers who got that, hey, you might have seen Herbert take his team right down the field and score as well because they could. Really interesting game. These teams may play again.
That's my fear.
If they do, it's probably going to be at Arrowhead because I think Kansas City now gets the home field advantage out of that. But if they play again, you look for a totally different attack. I was talking with some friends of mine who said, hey, the Chargers, look what they left on the board by not kicking those field goals. And that's true. They left some points on the board. But the fact of the matter remains that when the Chiefs got the ball, they were deep in their own territory. Had the Chargers kicked the field goals, they would have had to have kicked off. Where would Kansas City have been then? It's not a fair comparison.
No.
It's a different dynamic altogether. And Kansas City deserved to win. They played very well, and they showed their legions of fans, kingdom, that they can score, and they did.
And again, it just proves what we've said of the last several weeks. There's no reason to risk any injury or any kind of problems if you can game manage. And I think that's what this season has been a big part of learning for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, game management, sure, that's all part of it. I did question some of the calls that they made in the game, whether or not that was Mahomes making those calls or whether it was Bieniemy or Reed or whomever. I did question some of them, but then again, you're always going to question something. Thought the defense played well. Would it have been a big difference with Chris Jones in
Absolutely.
there? Damn right it would have been.
They wouldn't have been able to run it.
I disagree. Yes,
you
they would have.
You think they would have been stepped it up there?
They would have not thrown for the amount of yardage they had. Quarterback would have been pressured. They run away from this guy. They run away from him, and the offense is taking out Melvin Ingram. All right, I think they would have gotten the same amount of yardage on the ground, but probably through the air they would have had to have hurried their passes because he would have been in there. So it does make a big difference. But there are ways to mitigate that on the offensive line, and a good O-line, which the Chiefs will see in the playoffs, can make a very big difference.
Yeah, but at the same time, and I know they run away from Chris Jones, but at the same time, that alleviates pressure from the other players who can do some things and get up and fill those gaps. So I would say they lose about 60, 70 yards rushing if Chris Jones is out there
I disagree.
All day.
I absolutely disagree.
But, hey, it's hypothetical, so neither of us are right, to be honest with you.
I
but,
am.
Yeah, right. Anyway, hey, it's my birthday in a couple days. I need to be right, at least for a couple days. So, that part of it, the stops, the fourth down stops are so crazy. They did it 3 times last night, and that was my biggest fear going into overtime. It's like, we've got that 3 times now. It's bound to happen that we can't stop them every single time.
I do understand why Coach Staley did that. I do understand, and that philosophy has been practiced in the NFL in the past, most recently by other teams, in that you're not going to beat the Chiefs with a diet of field goals. You're not going to. You've got to score the touchdowns, so if you have the opportunity to do it, furthermore, if you don't succeed, the ball takes over at the 1 or 2 or 3 yard line, whatever it was. The one should have been a touchdown. That's when Parham made the catch and then slammed his head into the turf and dropped it, and that's the right call. You have to have that ball in your possession the entire time. He did, and then the concussion on the ground knocked it loose. Well, it's called catching it and keeping it all the way down. You have to do that. And he's apparently going to be okay, but that's a deep concussion. You can tell that by the way he was shaking when he came off. That happens. All right, that should have been a touchdown. Not legally, but theoretically, that should have been a score right there. All right, that touchdown, the fumble, why in the world the guy dives into the middle of the line? That defies all understanding, because these are big people. You're not going to jump over them unless you're Sam Cunningham or somebody like this.
That's a name drop.
Just passed away here recently. The fact is that there's just a very few athletes who can do that. So why do you risk it? Well, again, you're taking a chance, taking a risk on your home field and all that sort of thing. But again, it's misleading when you say they left the points on the board, because they did not. They were taking a risk and making it work, and the Chargers did have a 28-21 lead. And what happened? In an instant, Kelsey and Mahomes hook up. That's the kind of quick strike offense they have. Are there defenses against it? You bet there are, but you better be ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they kept me on the edge of my seat all night last night, and it was a great game. It was one for the ages. Probably one of the biggest AFC West games that we've had in several years, I think, in my opinion. And it was well fought on both sides, and those Chargers are going to give us problems for the next few years. Herbert's a great quarterback. They've got a great organization, and definitely going to be messing with our Cheerios in the near future.
Tell you what, this kid, he is a good quarterback.
Hell yeah,
and I'll tell you
what
else he has going for him. You watch his rollouts. Do you know how big that kid is?
No, dude, and he stiff arms dudes, and they can't stop him. He's so big.
He's 6'6", and he's about 225, 230, maybe even more than that. He's not a Roethlisberger. He's much more mobile than that. This kid is a very fine player.
He definitely is. Well, it's definitely a great win going into the, week and a half break that we've got for the Steelers game come home against Arrowhead on the day after Christmas, and should be a lot to talk about. Also, big props to Nick Bolton, who just keeps impressing me. I honestly think he's Defensive Rookie of the Year all day.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, he has to be. Last night he was everywhere, and a lot of guys had to step up, and they did. Do you play fantasy football?
No, I do not.
Okay. Have you ever? Have you played?
Yeah.
You used to in the past. So playoffs for most leagues start this week, right? And it's got to be a night. Luckily for me, I've been in the clear. I think I've got one player that ended up getting in the COVID designation, but there have been so many guys in the last 24 to 48 hours that have tested positive that they're looking at their fantasy team going, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? I have some of my star players that are out, and that's just them in fantasy world. Now let's talk about the real world. What the hell is the NFL going to do now?
Well, the latest ratio taken is most of those players, 2/3 of them are asymptomatic. And what do you mean the guy's not sick? Then why are they keeping him out? Because of the contagion that's possible. Anyway, the NFL is revising the rules. Now, it hasn't been implemented yet, but it will be possibly as soon as this weekend. And that is that masking will now be required at every team meeting they have, indoors and out. So the players are going to have to be masked, probably on the sidelines as well. All right, that's acceptable. The other one is that asymptomatic players, these are individuals who show no signs but do test positive, will now be tested every day. And a doctor, assuming they're still asymptomatic, will determine their level of contagion. And then, if it's acceptable, they're allowed to play. So it's going to hasten the return of some of these players who are testing positive and yet aren't sick. Still can be contagious. How that is done by the physicians, I do not know.
Literally getting ready to ask you, Dr. Ned, how the hell do you say this guy is more contagious than that guy?
Do not know.
Curious.
Unless it's done by some kind of a breathalyzer or something like that, I must admit I don't know, because COVID-19 is contagious. In other words, you can get it from airborne particles. Infectious, you did not. That's from touching something. Still, wash your hands and behave. But the fact of the matter remains, it is going to hasten the return of some of these players.
So is this going to be NFL doctors that implement this thing?
Yes, each team has its physicians.
Yeah, but they're going to be team physicians, though.
Well, but these are also medical doctors, and they maintain the oath. So, indeed, it'll be
I was
accurate.
just kind of looking over towards the East Coast for Belichick and seeing what kind of scheme he's going to pull and stuff. If Mac Jones or Harris or someone gets COVID and he's like, oh yeah, doc, he's not contagious, send him out there. Speaking of football, though, all of us in the kingdom can rest easy this weekend. We got our win, but there's a lot more football, including bowl games, and we've got a lot of pro football on Saturday and Sunday. Like I said, it's like they knew it was my birthday on Monday, and they were like, let's give this kid as much football as possible.
Well, there are, as a matter of fact, there are 8 bowl games this weekend. 2 of them are coming up today and 6 on Saturday. There are also 2 NFL games. Now, the NFL and college football have a rule. The NFL will not play when there are college games. The college regular schedule is going on. Well, this is not the college regular schedule. And furthermore, the bowl games are not a part of the NCAA. They are private situations. All right, having said that, 2 NFL games. The Raiders and the Browns play in Cleveland, and the Patriots and the Colts play tomorrow night in Indianapolis. That's a pretty big game.
That is a big game.
Patriots are playing extremely well. The 2 bowl games are today, one in Nassau in the Bahamas, and the other in Orlando, Florida. That's later on tonight. And then 6 games tomorrow, so it's a total of 8, and then the crush really begins. Missouri will play next Wednesday. They play a Wednesday night game. The basketball team at Missouri also plays a Wednesday night game at the same time.
Yeah.
So the football folks went to the folks at the Military Bowl and said, the Armed Forces Bowl, and they said, hey, do you think you can change the time? Yet. So they will both be at 7 o'clock
You
on
ain't
Wednesday.
paying for this. So when did your flight leave to call that game in the Bahamas?
Well, I'm on my way, man.
As soon as I get done talking to you. All right, so let's get you out of here so you can get your swimsuits on. You watching any basketball this weekend?
There's a lot of it. Both Bears teams and both Drury teams are playing this weekend, both tomorrow. The Lady Bears will play Southern University out of Baton Rouge, and that will be a 2 o'clock game at the JQH Arena. Then the Bears play Central Arkansas from Conway, and I promise you the Bears will win that one. They're both named the Bears, but it'll be the Missouri State Bears who win. They're playing very well. That's a 7 o'clock game tomorrow night. Over at the O'Reilly Family Event Center, both the Lady Panthers and the Panthers are playing. One's a 5:30 game tomorrow night. That's the Lady Panthers against Michigan Tech, and Michigan Tech's pretty good. I don't think they're as good as the Lady Panthers, but they are still pretty good nonetheless. And then Drury takes on Southern Nazarene, and that'll be a 7:45 game tomorrow night. Southern Nazarene beat Drury earlier this year. Little chance for a payback coming up here. So, yeah, lots of basketball. Kind of brings in the holiday week, of which there will be a lot of basketball. Blue gold coming up right after Christmas, along with the pink and white and a lot of other tournaments. So it is a lot of fun.
And basketball season is in full force. But before that, though, we got a lot more football. And you have a wonderful weekend, Ed. I'll see you on Monday.